Hi everyone, Tanika here. Going to be doing a fairly, somewhat, probably not, we'll see where we go, quick episode for Below Deck Med, the most recent episode. So there was not a lot of different subjects to necessarily talk about, but there is a lot to discuss with at least one of the things. So let's go through it, shall we? First things first. John seems to be doing a pretty great, good job with the food so far. He's plating, to the T's. The food seems to be really good. Now this group of charter guests seem to be pretty low key, honestly. So it seems to be going pretty good there. And just kind of quickly going over the little dance number that Gail and Joe did was pretty interesting. Interesting tidbit to find out that she danced previously and then tore her meniscus, so her career was then over. But yeah, they did pretty good. Not hearing a whole lot from her boyfriend this episode, although he did say, what did he say? It was no matter, what was the term he used? The line that he used was kind of something around the lines. It's like, no, despite anything, that's what he said. I miss you, blah, 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 blah. Isn't it despite everything? I'm just nitpicking because he's annoying as hell. And the other thing, Sandy saying, what was it that she said, broski or something along those lines, that I'm just like, okay, that was interesting. But we're also 3 weeks away from her soon-to-be fiance showing up in Grace, so it's pretty cool. We'll see how that goes. Of course, we kind of all have an idea, obviously, how it's gonna go. So yeah, that's great. So let's kind of go into the kind of more high-level stuff that kind of happened in the episode. I try to remember if anything really happened exterior-wise. Obviously, we kind of know with okay, yes, there is something that happened exterior. Obviously, with the whole switch up with Nathan, Joe is obviously kind of leaving both of them in a weird spot. At least they seem to care about how the other feels, so that's a good start. And kind of the big thing for me anyways that kind of happened that I feel like needs to be kind of discussed is, okay, so as we kind of know, they were going to, now I know to be pronounced Hydra, although Aesha pronounced it as Hydra, I believe. I don't know who's right, who's wrong, but nonetheless, whatever it may be, I'm going to refer to as Hydra because this is who I am as a person. I'm going to say Hydra because brings me back to the good old days of S.H.I.E.L.D. Avengers. I'm going to go to Hydra. So anyways, so when they dock to go to Hydra, Captain Sandy basically asks Ian, are there people there to basically catch the hoist, I think is what they're called, or whatever. Are they there to catch it? And he's like, oh, I don't see anybody. Meanwhile, there's literally 2 guys standing right the fuck there. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't see anybody. Huh? I'm looking. I don't see nobody. And meanwhile, let the women do the work because Gail's like, they're right there. They're right there. And it's like, he's not really hearing her. And he's like, they're right there. He's like, I think I think those 2 guys right there might be actually gonna catch it. Huh. And Sandy's like, what the fuck? Because she does say, he doesn't look around him, observe his surroundings before he just speaks up. And usually what he says is complete nonsense. So, but anyways, yes, there were people there to catch the ropes. And not only that, we're gonna go a little further here. So basically, where they docked, basically backed up against rocks, rocks out of the water, rocks in the water. So they're right up against these rocks. So they're basically going to set up like the platforms that they usually do when they're doing like the toys and stuff. They're setting it up so that they can get the guests from ship to land. It could potentially pose, lack of safety, especially how he initially wanted to do it. He literally is like doing this and saying, I think this is good. He uses like the two of them. It's like, I think they look good. They can kind of just leapfrog to one of the rocks and hope and pray to God that they'll make it. Now, he says it's easy for him because, he doesn't look like a extremely tall guy, but he's potentially going to be taller than others. And he's thinking it's easy. And I love that Gail has the smarts so the women do the work here and says it'll be easy potentially for you, but it might not be easier for somebody else. And it's potentially not going to be very safe for someone to do this in the way he's planning to do this. And she feels that she can't overstep and kind of speak her mind, which is kind of unfortunate. Your higher up should at least, yes, you're the higher up, you are the person who's going to make the final decision, or at least, whatever. But they should be able to make you feel like what you say and your ideas matter. And for her to say that maybe it's more of her own confidence levels, maybe it's him and maybe how he handles himself as a leader, or maybe it's a mixture of the two. I'm not sure. But I feel kind of sad for her that she feels that she can't speak up. But anyways, Sandy kind of comes and she's like, kind of saying, I don't think this is a good idea to do it this way. Hey, Captain, what do you think? And she says, whatever is going to be the safest, because we know how Captain Sandy is with her safety. So what they end up doing, what I think was a smarter idea, is they got like a third piece that kind of jutted out a little bit more closer to the rock on the right hand side. And that was more of the safety thing. It was more about not letting them have to leapfrog to a fucking rock. You know what I mean? It's fucking ridiculous. But they seem to enjoy Hydra or whatever term you want to use it. And they seem to really enjoy that. But let's give exterior a break here and let's move into interior. So before we kind of go to the big thing that happened more so, started in the beginning of the episode and kind of came back again towards the end, I want to focus on what kind of happened in the middle first. Bear with me, and then we'll do that. So basically, Aesha, I guess, is deciding, because she deserves a break, kind of wants to have a break, maybe entrust her second stew to handle a lunch service on her own with Bree as a backup and kind of do it that way. And she says, obviously, if you need me, radio me, whatever. So I think this is, she should be able to do this. I feel like she definitely seemed to luck out a little more in her previous season on Down Under with the people she kind of had. I feel like she also lucked out with Toomey in her first season of Down Under, because that was kind of the first time I actually saw a full season with her. I had seen her before, like I recognized her face, but I never saw a season of her prior to the first season of Down Under. And that was her first season as Chiefs too. So she seemed to really luck out with Toomey, where you could trust Toomey to go off, do her own thing. She's going to handle her shit. She's going to be fine. That isn't the case with Ellie. It just isn't. And it's definitely not the case with Bree. They're too fucking green. If we remember, I've said this previously, Ellie kind of just showed up with maybe 6 months of experience on the last Below Deck Med season. I believe was the last one. Not the last one, the previous one. She's still fairly green. And again, she came in partway through a charter season. Like, she was maybe only on the tops 4 charters. So she's very fucking green. And yeah. And again, as we it was a nighttime situation, but if we saw how she handled herself during the first charter, kind of having to run to Jono to deal with a situation that she should be able to partially handle herself, I just don't have the confidence in her to handle a moment like that, where she's not having to do a lunch service or a dinner service or anything like that. So, nonetheless, though, Aesha goes and she has her break. She has a radio there beside her just in case of anything. And we basically hear Ellie on the radio kind of radioing to Bree, can you find me, I don't, what was one of the things she said? Can you get me lemons? Can you get me this? Can you get me that? Do you know where this is? Do you know where that is? Like, she's kind of doing that. And she's like, I think one of the things that she was asking for was, I don't know. Well, just like olives. I know it wasn't olives, it was something else, but she was asking, it was like a garnish she was asking for. And she thought there wasn't any of this particular garnish at the bar, but then there was. She literally radioing to Brie, oh, never mind. Like, Aesha says, if I am supposed to feel comfortable to leave my second stew to handle a lunch service, I should be able to trust that she knows where this shit is in the fucking first place. And that is just not the case here. And even, I'm trying to understand the logic in this. When she literally says to Bree, not on the radio, and says, do you mind putting olives on a stick for me? Ma'am, you're pouring the fucking drinks. You're doing the fucking drinks. Is Aesha pouring the drinks and then asking you to do the garnish? No, she fucking isn't. She is doing the drinks and the fucking garnish because that's what makes fucking sense. I don't understand. I don't fucking understand her. This person acts like she knows her fucking shit, and I'm Chief Stew, and I'm this, and I'm that, and it's like, ma'am, you barely are. I personally, there was a Chief Stew in the beginning of me watching this show, and for the life of me, I can't remember who it is. It might have been that Chief Stew when Fraser was I don't know, when it had been Fraser. It might have been a season previously to the races in Fraser, but I remember one of them basically saying, no one's going to be second or third. We're all on a level playing field here. I'm going to say both of you are junior stews. And I think that what's probably makes the most sense right now for these two. None of them are above really the other. I mean, Brie obviously has less experience than Ellie, but Ellie barely has anything to discuss either. So I just feel like neither of them are above the other. They're both on the same level playing field. Because I just don't understand the logic of asking someone to do garnish when you're doing the fucking drinks. I'm so fucking confused by this. But the main thing here too, I think at this point, Aesha's kind of stressing out because she's like, this is why I don't take breaks. I'm stressing. I hear her asking for things that she should know where the fuck they are. What the fuck? And she goes to Jono. She's like, I'm supposed to be leaving Ellie to do lunch service, but I'm uncomfortable with this. I'm going to go check on and see what's going on. She goes upstairs. Now, they have a 2 o'clock lunchtime. and they've had plenty of time. They've had, say, these guys docked at 12. They've had plenty of time to figure this out. Aesha confirmed the time for lunch prior to her going to Ellie and saying, I'm going to leave you to lunch service. She knew for probably an hour, and she told Ellie this. She told Jono this. So Jono knows he's preparing for lunch. He's fine. She told her this. You know there's a 2 o'clock time, and I'm pretty sure she was told, I think she went on break about an hour before lunch was supposed to start. And that is when she told her what time lunch was supposed to be at. And you kind of see the countdown with like 45 minutes before lunch and all of this. And she's like here doing the drinks and stuff. And then it's now 10 minutes. Let me repeat. 10 minutes. It's 1:50 before it's supposed to be lunch service. And the table is not even set. There's not a placemat in sight. There's not a utensil in sight. There's nothing in sight but the fucking salt from the ocean. That is it. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And when Aesha says we're 10 minutes away from lunch and the table's not set, the excuse, and this is the part that fucking bothers me about Ellie, is her fucking excuse to this is, well, we've been doing drinks the entire time. Okay. Here's what you do. You want to act like I'm Chief Stew, I'm this, I'm that, and you want to, you want to act like you're better than fucking Brie because you're Chief Stew and you know better and you know more. You don't know jack fucking shit. You don't know shit. You think you do, you don't. And what you could have done in this circumstance, I am not saying that there wasn't guests coming and asking for drinks. I'm not debating that. We can literally see guests after guest after guest coming and asking for a drink. I'm not debating it. What I am going to challenge here is her not delegating enough to Bree, who is supposed to be here to help. If you can't set the table because you're doing drinks, then ask Bree to set the table. Now, I don't know if she has that confidence and that experience to do that, which I know not mostly, especially because she is so green, she probably doesn't have that experience. And probably Ellie does more so. Then you come off the bar for a few minutes and you set the fucking table. Let's preface this. What Aesha did, which was very simple, what Aesha did, she did in 5 minutes. Are you really trying to fucking tell me in the last hour you couldn't spare 5 minutes? Are you really trying to tell me that every single guest, every minute of this fucking hour was asking for a drink and you couldn't take 5 minutes? You couldn't say, let me get the utensils out, let me get the placemats out, let me get stuff ready to go? You're trying to tell me you couldn't do that in the fucking 60 minutes that were allotted to you to get lunch service started? Are you fucking kidding me? I don't fucking buy it. I don't fucking buy it. This is ridiculous. And I think this is a person who is way over her head and is more concerned with her bunny costume or her runway shows or this and that. Hooking up with fucking Joe. Like, you know what I mean? This is what she's more concerned about. Think you're just a fucking Ferrari and it's just, I'm over her. But let's go to the big thing that kind of happened here. And that is the whole laundry room fiasco. So basically, because there isn't a lot to do, because the guests are kind of, enjoying the boat ride to the destination, they're kind of doing their own thing. The toys go out. They're pretty okay right now. That there isn't a whole lot for interior to really do. A lot of it's on the exterior at the moment. So there's not a lot for interior to really do in this moment. So basically what I think I might have missed this, but I'm gonna trust Ellie here. What I think did happen here is Aesha did tell Ellie to go help in the laundry room. Fine, whatever. And obviously, because Brie doesn't feel very confident in her laundry skills and hasn't been doing things very well, that she has this quote unquote system kind of going. We're going to talk about it to kind of help her not screw up and hopefully know what's what. Before we get into the real fiasco of what happened here, ma'am, now listen, I'm guilty. I will literally mix colors. It's my clothes. I'm fine with doing that. Whatever. We have to keep our clothes because if I didn't, I'll be doing these teeny tiny little loads for each of us. And we have, like, me and my mom have to keep our clothes separate because, like, we have a lot of the same pajamas, clothing, whatever. Like, everything's pretty identical. So we have to keep our stuff separate. So because of that, we mix colors and it's fine. That's our choice. Our clothes, we don't care. But when you are in a professional sense and you professionally have to do housekeeping, laundry is included in that, you should not be mixing the colors. Whites go with lights. Darks go with darks. You shouldn't be mixing those things up because what is going to happen is exactly what Sandy said happened. And again, if you're using warm water or even hot water, I don't know what she's doing, the darker colors are going to run on the light colors. Like, what are you doing? So, this is, and I feel like, again, this is common sense. Am I crazy to expect that something like that is common sense? I mean, listen, we used to do the lights of the lights, darks of the darks when we would mix our clothes up together when, like, I was younger. We didn't have the same clothing. You have two adult women. There's only so many options out there for each of us to have our clothing, and we're not, we're going to have a lot of the same clothes. So that, like, that is our only way to make sure our clothes don't get mixed up. But, like, that's personally sense of doing things. Professionally, though, I would never do it this way. And this is her way of making sure that she doesn't mix things up or mix people's things up. That's not good enough. When you have people writing their names on the tags of their shirts, that should be fucking enough. And that's things that we've done as well in my household, where we write our names or write the initial on the tag of the clothing, especially with ironing or whatever, because it's going to get mixed up with ironing. That's the best way to do it. Little indicators to make sure that we're getting proper clothes, that that's ours. And I just don't understand any of this, why it's just so fucking confusing for her. But let's get to the meat of this. The meat of this is we were under the impression that Brie is writing everything down to make sure that she is not mixing things up. Personally, if I was her and I'm able to do so, depending on how many washers and dryers you have, because I can't really tell that by watching the show what's what here. But, like, let's say if you have, like, Gail's clothing or whatever, you can kind of say, okay, that's washer one. I don't know if it's possible, but if possible, kind of have a system, right? And that's what you think she's doing. And that's why I thought she was doing. So when, kind of going back a bit again, when Ellie came down to, well, obviously do her job, and Bree's like, I can do laundry. Like, she basically, like, wants her out of the laundry room. And Ellie's like, I'm here to do my job. I've asked me to be here, so don't run me out. Which I didn't think was necessarily necessary for her to say. She could have just said, Aesha asked me to be here, and done it. And then I want to preface this because this is brought up again in a little later on, which I'll obviously get to right after, is Ellie kind of quote unquote storms out of the laundry room because she doesn't, I guess, particularly like Bree's tone and attitude or whatever. But I guess when Bree leaves the room, she has her notebook there and she left it in the laundry room. And Ellie's like reading the notebook and it has different things like don't mix scales, whatever, with this, or don't do this because it came out smelly and stuff like that. Like it's things like this. And it's very, initially I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt and I thought, maybe she's doing this because this is her system. This is something she's doing to make sure she's not doing these things. I don't know. I can't speak for her. So she literally is kind of like, it feels like a book of crimes. Like she's getting on her without getting like directly about this notebook. So we leave it alone for now. We think maybe it's over, but it's not, because Aesha later on towards the end of the episode kind of says to Ellie, you know, it's really great that you guys are kind of getting along again. Obviously takes that weight off of her for having to worry about it. And Ellie's like, yeah, but you know, like when you sent me down there to do laundry, she kind of had this attitude with me. And she kind of like stormed out of the laundry room, which that's not particularly the truth. She, yes, did say, I can do laundry. She did say that, but she also kind of made it out to seem like Brie was like exceptionally rude to her. She really wasn't. And then for you to say, oh, Brie like stormed out. No, she didn't. She actually hung a left and stayed in the laundry room while Ellie stormed out. So it's not fully the truth here. But then Ellie brings up the book and says like, I feel like a book of crimes. And she's kind of saying whatever. And she's like, you know, why doesn't these, Aesha says, like, why doesn't these things happen when I'm around? Because like, she feels like she's missing these things. And she's like, I'm going to try to see if I can look at the book and kind of address it in such a way where she kind of ran upon it. So we're at the end of the night. I think Bree's in bed, you know, where the guests are in bed, like the night's pretty much over here. And she does go into the laundry room and she finds the book, Aesha. She finds the book. And this is when I'm kind of like, oh, is she for real? Like writing shit down as proof that she's not the one screwing up? Like what's happening here? And she says, like she's reading some of the things that was not read by Ellie earlier, or if it wasn't brought to our attention. I can't remember every little thing, but it definitely doesn't look good. And Aesha definitely refers to this book as like a burn book. She's like, is this a burn book? And I feel like there should, if it's a burn book, of course, I think there should be a passage particularly in there where she says, Ellie is a fugly bitch. And then maybe someone potentially, you know what, Joe stuck a hot dog up his butt. If we're gonna do burn book, let's do the burn book for real. I saw Nathan and Gail kissing. Let's do this. Let's go all the way. Let's make this a true ass burn book. But I see where Aesha's coming from. It's a little interesting that Brie is not actually using this as ways to create a system for herself, but is literally trying to, you know, create a burn book. And we're gonna literally have Captain Sandy out there and you know, being Tina Fey in the moment and just basically trying to bring everybody together, you know, even if she doesn't really go here. Anyway, that's basically it for this episode. Next episode definitely looks interesting. It's heating up, y'all. We're gonna see Ellie making out with Joe and it's gonna piss Brie off, and Aesha is bringing all of this information to Sandy's attention because she feels like she kind of needs to at this point. And what I loved about this is that Captain Sandy is not going to be favoriting either of them at this point. She's not going to do this like she did with Camille and what's her face. She's literally gonna say, listen, I know maybe y'all maybe watched Below Deck that season. Season was a 9, and you probably think that I'm just gonna like send home the Camille in the situation. No, I'm gonna send you both home. She literally says if you guys cannot get along, send both of you home. That would be detrimental to the interior. But again, it's like, what really is the difference? Really and truly. Because I mean, Aisha's doing everything service-wise. I guess it would be detrimental to the laundry, but she's literally doing everything service-wise because what the fuck does Ellie really do? She makes the bed, cleans the bathroom, which is great. You need that too, but it's just like, I don't know. I just say send both of them home. Or if we really have to choose one or the other, send Ellie home. I am over her. Can't stand her. One can wish. But anyways, like I said, that is it for this episode. The next episode you can expect is Forbidden Love. I know I did say I was going to get 90 Day UK out to you first, but I think now I'm just going to go in date order here. So Forbidden Love will be the next thing you get because I already have the notes for that, and then you'll potentially get HEA after that. So that's what we're going to do. And yeah, but that is it for Below Deck. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.